In the heart of Los Angeles, where dreams were born under neon lights, a shadow moved unnoticed. In the late 1960s, while the city basked in Hollywood's glow, a forgotten corner called Skid Row became a hunting ground. Men vanished into alleys, their lives erased with chilling precision. This wasn't random violence. This was the work of a predator who saw himself as a purifier of souls. His name was Vaughn Greenwood, the Skid Row slasher. And for years, he walked among the city's lost, unseen, unstoppable, until one cold night changed everything. Los Angeles in the late 1960s was a city of stark contrasts. Hollywood's red carpets and palm-lined boulevards promised fame and fortune, drawing dreamers from across the globe. The air buzzed with the counterculture of the era, rock music, free love, and rebellion. But just blocks from the glitz, a different world festered. Skid Row, a gritty stretch of downtown streets, was where hope went to die. Here, dilapidated hotels, soup kitchens, and makeshift shelters housed the city's most vulnerable: homeless men, veterans, addicts, and drifters. The city's attention rarely lingered here. Police patrols were sparse, and society turned a blind eye to those it deemed disposable. Skid Row was a blind spot, a place where people could vanish without a trace. And in 1964, that's exactly what started happening. Men began to disappear, their bodies later found in alleys or slumped in doorways. At first, these deaths barely registered. A transient stabbed in a rough part of town? Just another statistic in a city grappling with rising crime, gang violence, drug overdoses, and robberies. But as the bodies piled up, a chilling pattern emerged. Someone wasn't just killing, they were hunting. Vaughn Greenwood was born on January 19, 1944, into a world that offered him little stability. Born in Pennsylvania, he was reportedly abandoned by his parents as a young child, though records are scarce on whether they died or simply left. He drifted through a series of foster homes, each a temporary stop for a boy who seemed to belong nowhere. Foster families described him as distant, unable to form bonds, slipping through their care like a shadow. By his teens, trouble was his constant companion. Truancy led to run-ins with school authorities. Petty thefts, stealing food or small items, landed him in juvenile detention. By adulthood, Vaughn had become a drifter, crisscrossing the country with no ties, no purpose, and a growing record of minor crimes. What no one saw was the darkness taking root inside him, a festering resentment, a belief that the world had wronged him, and a need to assert control in the most horrific way. In 1966, at age 22, Vaughn surfaced in Chicago, where he committed his first documented act of violence. He attacked a man with a knife in an unprovoked assault, slashing with a ferocity that shocked responding officers. The victim survived, but the incident landed Vaughn in prison for over 5 years. During his incarceration, psychiatric evaluations painted a disturbing picture. Doctors noted signs of delusional thinking. Vaughn spoke of being a divine instrument, chosen to cleanse the impure. One report quoted him saying, "The soul is in the blood. Free it, and you free them." Yet, despite these red flags, he was not institutionalized. Released around 1971, he vanished from Chicago's radar, only to re-emerge in the one place where he could disappear completely: Los Angeles' Skid Row. The first known victim appeared in November 1964 behind a run-down liquor store on the edge of Skid Row. He was unidentified, a man in his 50s, his ragged coat barely clinging to his frame. His throat had been slashed from ear to ear. Nearby, on the grimy pavement, lay a tin cup filled with what tests later confirmed was human blood. No fingerprints, no witnesses, no clues. Police chalked it up to the area's violence, a transient dispute perhaps, or a robbery gone wrong. The case went cold, filed away in a precinct already overwhelmed. But less than a year later, in 1965, another body surfaced nearby. Another homeless man, his throat cut identically. A cracked ceramic cup held blood beside him. Detectives whispered of a pattern, but without forensic technology like DNA or surveillance, they had nothing to connect the dots. The killings stopped as abruptly as they began, and for nearly a decade, Skid Row seemed to exhale, Unbeknownst to authorities, Vaughn Greenwood wasn't dormant during those years. His 1966 assault in Chicago led to his imprisonment, keeping him off the streets. Released around 1971, he didn't seek redemption or a new start. He returned to Los Angeles, to Skid Row, where the shadows welcomed him back. The city had changed. Crime rates soared, the drug trade flourished, and Skid Row grew even more desolate. But for Vaughn, it was home, a place where his darkness could thrive unchecked. In late 1974, the terror returned with a vengeance. Between November 1974 and January 1975, bodies began appearing at a horrifying pace. 9 men were found murdered in just 3 months, each death bearing the same grim signature. The victims were Skid Row's most vulnerable, elderly men, disabled transients, those too weak to fight back. One was found propped against a dumpster, eyes frozen open, staring into the void. His limbs were arranged meticulously, as if the killer had taken time to perfect his work. These weren't random acts. Vaughn Greenwood saw himself as a purifier, cleansing the city of those he deemed unworthy. He targeted men society had discarded, believing their deaths served a higher purpose. Some bodies were washed post-mortem, as if to erase their impurities. Others bore marks on their hands or foreheads, blood-drawn sigils or shallow cuts forming patterns. Police initially suspected a cult, perhaps a secret group performing sacrifices in the city's underbelly. The Los Angeles Times and other papers fueled the speculation, dubbing the killer the Skid Row slasher. Survivors described him as tall, gaunt, with hollow eyes, and an unnervingly polite demeanor. One man recalled Vaughn handing him a tin cup of liquid, muttering about cleansing the soul. He refused the drink and fled, a decision that likely saved his life. The community lived in fear, sleeping with one eye open, knowing the slasher could be anyone among them. Detectives faced a nightmare. The slasher left no fingerprints, no murder weapon, no witnesses willing to talk. Forensic science in the 1970s was limited. DNA analysis didn't exist, and Skid Row's transient nature meant victims often went unidentified. Cases piled up, each a puzzle with missing pieces. The slasher exploited this neglect, striking with impunity, vanishing into the crowd like a ghost. For months, the case seemed unsolvable. Everything changed on a frigid January night in 1975. A transient named David M. staggered into a downtown Los Angeles clinic, blood streaming from a deep gash across his neck. Barely alive, he told staff a stranger had offered him food in an alley, then lunged with a knife, muttering about purifying the street. David fought back, kicking the attacker and fleeing. The wound missed his carotid artery by millimeters. His description, tall, lean, hollow-eyed, matched rumors circulating on Skid Row. During the struggle, the attacker dropped a letter addressed to Vaughn. The name sparked recognition for Detective Mark Reynolds, who had heard it from shelter regulars. Police dug into records, uncovering Vaughn Orrin Greenwood, recently released from prison with a 1966 Chicago assault conviction and psychiatric reports warning of his dangerous beliefs. A manhunt launched. Days later, on January 29, 1975, detectives found him in an abandoned hotel on Los Angeles' outskirts. The crumbling structure with chained doors and blacked-out windows looked like a scene from a horror film. Inside, Vaughn sat alone in a dimly lit room, surrounded by candles. Behind him, a makeshift altar held blood-stained clothes, ritual bowls, burnt papers, and a large butcher's knife. He didn't resist, he didn't speak, he just smiled, as if he'd been waiting. Investigators uncovered damning evidence, blood samples, victim belongings, and journals detailing his kills as sacred acts. One entry described slitting a throat as releasing the spirit to the Father. Charged with 9 murders, he was convicted in 1977 and sentenced to life without parole. Though suspected in additional killings, including 2 in Chicago and 1 in Bakersfield, he confessed only to proven cases. In prison, Vaughn remained an enigma, rarely speaking, refusing interviews, and writing in notebooks never released. He died in 2020, alone, with no visitors. The killing stopped, but Skid Row's fear lingered. His story asks, what drives someone to see murder as salvation? Insanity, hatred, or something darker? No answers came, and that's what haunts us most. Thanks for watching. If this chilled you, hit like and subscribe for more true crime stories, and I'll see you in the next one.